The key went into the front lock, but it wouldn't turn. I tried it twice. Then I looked through the glass and saw two men rolling gray paint across the banquet room wall. Susan's dedication plaque had hung there since 1999. Now it was lying face down on a folding table beside a bucket of screws. My name is Charles Freeman, and I'm 71 years old. Before I tell you what happened next, where are you listening from? I knocked hard enough for one of the painters to notice. He glanced toward the side hallway. A moment later, my son-in-law came through the lobby carrying a paper cup. Christopher didn't look surprised to see me. He opened the door about 6 inches and kept his foot behind it. "Morning, Charles. What happened to the lock?" "We changed the locks." I gathered that. He looked past me toward Calendar Street. It was a cool June morning, and I hadn't brought a jacket. Susan would have told me to go back for one. She'd spent 46 years telling me that Montana mornings didn't care what the forecast said. I pointed through the glass. "Why is Susan's plaque off the wall?" Christopher lowered his voice. "We're freshening things up. She's been dead 2 weeks." "I know." "No, you don't." He pressed his lips together. Christopher did that whenever he wanted credit for not arguing. "We've all been trying to give you some space," he said. "Who's all?" "Robin. The board. People around the club. What space requires changing my lock? It isn't like that." I waited. He shifted the paper cup into his other hand. "Charles, this is for the best. Everyone agrees you shouldn't be carrying the hall's stress right now. Not so soon after the funeral. And honestly, at your age, you need time to adjust." He said it gently. That was the part I remembered. If he'd raised his voice, I might have raised mine. If he'd insulted Susan, I might have pushed that door open. Instead, he used the same tone people use when taking car keys from someone they've already decided is helpless. Behind him, the roller passed over the clean rectangle where Susan's plaque had been. I looked at Christopher's foot behind the door. Then I looked at his new brass key. "Does Robin know you did this?" "She knows we're making changes." That wasn't my question. "She's worried about you." "Did she know you were changing the locks?" His eyes moved toward the hallway. "We discussed the need for stability." That meant no. I stepped back from the door. "All right," I said. He seemed relieved. "Thank you for understanding." I didn't say I understood. I walked to my truck. I didn't slam the door. I didn't give him anything he could repeat later with his own version attached. I drove home, went into my bedroom closet, and pulled a fireproof box from the top shelf. Inside was a certified copy of a ground lease signed in 1998. Park County owned the land in the old Grange building. The lease named one tenant, me. It didn't name the club. It didn't name our limited liability company. It certainly didn't name Christopher Reynolds. I already knew that. I'd known it for 28 years. What I didn't know was whether Christopher had changed those locks because he was arrogant or because he believed I no longer had the right to open that door. There's a difference. To explain why, I have to go back a little. Susan got sick in late April. At first, we thought it was a stomach problem. She'd lost her appetite and complained that coffee tasted wrong. Susan loved coffee strong enough to stain the cup. When she left half of it untouched 3 mornings in a row, I called the clinic. She rolled her eyes while I made the appointment. "You don't need to supervise my coffee," she said. "I'm not supervising it. You just measured what was left." I noticed. "You noticed like a county inspector." She smiled when she said it. I rinsed her cup and set it upside down beside the sink. The test came quickly after that. So did the answers. It wasn't something surgery could fix. The doctor talked about time and careful ranges. Susan listened without interrupting. I stared at a poster showing the human digestive system and counted the blue pushpins holding it to the wall. On the drive home, she asked me to stop at the grocery store. "What do we need?" I said. "Coffee." "You haven't been drinking it?" "You have." That was Susan. She could receive the worst news of our lives, then remember what was missing from the pantry. We had about 5 weeks. They weren't dramatic weeks. Most of dying isn't dramatic. It's medication schedules, clean towels, insurance calls, and deciding whether soup is worth the trouble. Robin came by often. She sat with her mother while I went to the pharmacy. Sometimes Christopher came with her, but he rarely stayed long. He always had something happening at the hall. A refrigerator needed repair. A wedding party wanted a refund. The liquor delivery was late. He'd stand in our kitchen looking at his phone while Robin talked to Susan. One afternoon, Susan asked him about the banquet room. "Did you order the cream tablecloths?" she said. Christopher kept typing. "We're going another direction." What direction? White. White shows everything. That's what the event planner wants. Susan looked at me. She won't be washing them. Christopher smiled. Commercial laundering has improved since 1999. It was a small remark. Susan let it pass. Later, after they left, I found her folding the old cream napkins at the kitchen table. She ran her thumb along one stitched corner. He wants the room to look like every other wedding place in Bozeman, she said. It's not his room. He thinks it is. I pulled out the chair across from her. Do you want me to talk to him? No. Robin's tired. She's trying to keep everybody calm. Everybody usually means Christopher. Susan folded another napkin. Don't make her choose while I'm still here. I didn't like that sentence. She shouldn't have to choose. She already does. She just pretends she doesn't. I watched Susan line up the folded napkins. Even sick, she made the corners meet. Then she pushed one toward me. Promise me you won't let him turn that place into something ugly. The hall, the family. I didn't answer right away. Susan tapped the napkin with one finger. Charles, I promise. That cream napkin is still in my kitchen drawer. I don't use it. I don't frame it either. Susan disliked turning ordinary things into shrines. It stays under the pot holders, folded the way she left it. She died at home on a Tuesday morning. Robin was there. I was sitting beside the bed. Christopher had gone to the hall because a produce delivery came early. The funeral was the following Monday. We held the reception at the Elkhorn Grange Hall because there was nowhere else Susan would have wanted it. She had spent 27 years making that banquet room welcoming. She chose the curtains in 1999. She found the old maple tables at a church sale. She kept a drawer full of emergency sewing supplies because brides lost buttons and grooms split seams. Her dedication plaque hung between the two front windows. It was plain brass. Susan had refused anything larger. It read, "Banquet room restored and cared for by Susan Freeman, who believed every guest should be fed before they were asked for anything." That line was hers. She'd said it during a volunteer meeting. Someone wrote it down. At the reception, people stood beneath that plaque and told me stories I'd never heard. Susan had slipped grocery money into a coat pocket. Susan had opened the kitchen at midnight after a family's furnace failed. Susan had quietly waived a rental fee when someone couldn't afford a memorial. Christopher worked the room in a dark suit. He shook hands, answered vendor questions, and showed people where to leave serving trays. Anyone watching would have thought he owned the place. I didn't care that day. Robin stayed close to me. Her face looked drawn and swollen. She'd spent most of the previous night making photo boards. Near the end of the reception, she sat beside me. "Dad, you need to eat." I did. "You had half a roll." It was a large roll. She put a plate in front of me. Turkey, potatoes, green beans, and one of Susan's lemon bars from the freezer. I looked at the lemon bar for too long. Robin slid it to the edge of the plate. "You don't have to eat that part, I know." Christopher walked over with a folder tucked beneath his arm. "Robin, can I borrow you?" "She's eating," I said. "It'll only take a minute." "What is it?" He tapped the folder. "Vendor authorizations, just routine signatures." Robin stood. "I'll be right back, Dad." They went into the office Susan and I had shared for years. Christopher closed the door. That bothered me, but not enough to follow them. Not then. I thought he was being insensitive. I didn't yet understand that he was using the day everybody buried Susan to keep papers moving. After the last guest left, I went into the kitchen. 3 volunteers were stacking dishes. Christopher stood near the service counter, talking to a man I didn't recognize. The man wore a fitted navy jacket and polished brown shoes. He didn't look like a local volunteer. Christopher saw me and ended the conversation quickly. The stranger held out his hand. "Mr. Freeman, I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. I heard remarkable things about your wife. Most of them were true." He smiled, but his eyes went toward Christopher. Christopher said, "This is Eric. He's helped with some vendor planning." No last name, no explanation. Eric shook my hand again and left through the side door. "Vendor planning for what?" I asked. Christopher picked up 2 empty glasses. "We're looking at ways to increase bookings." "Who's we?" "The management team. That includes me. You've had other priorities. My wife died 6 days ago." "I know, Charles. That's why I'm handling things." He turned toward the dish racks. I caught his arm lightly just above the elbow. "Don't use Susan's illness to move around me." He looked at my hand until I removed it. "I'm trying to help." "Then tell me who that man was." "I told you. Eric." He knows the event business. From where? Bozeman. That narrows it down. Christopher set the glasses on the counter. This isn't the time. He walked away. I let him. That decision stayed with me afterward. I wondered what would have happened if I'd followed him into the office. Maybe nothing. Christopher had been handling daily business since my knee injury in 2020. He knew invoices, schedules, and supplier contracts. He also knew how to make curiosity sound like interference. Susan used to balance that. When Christopher said a change was urgent, she asked why. When he claimed everybody agreed, she asked for names. She could do it without making the room hostile. Without her, his words seemed to settle faster. The morning after the funeral, I woke at 5:40 out of habit. For years, Susan and I had arrived at the hall before 7 on Tuesdays. We checked weekend damage, counted linens, and made a supply list. I made coffee for 2 people. I didn't realize until I set down the second mug. I poured hers into the sink, washed the cup, and put it away. Then I sat at the kitchen table until the room got light. Robin called around 8. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I'm sitting in the kitchen. Did you sleep?" "Some." "Christopher thinks you should take a couple of weeks away from the hall. What do you think?" There was a pause. "I think you've been through a lot. So have you." "I know. Are you taking 2 weeks away?" "That's different." "Why?" "Because Christopher needs me to help with some changes." I looked at Susan's empty chair. "What changes?" "Nothing major. Paint, scheduling, some new software." "Why now?" "We already had things planned. Your mother's plaque stays where it is." "Of course it does," she answered quickly. I believed she meant it. "Did you know about a man named Eric from Bozeman?" I asked. Another pause. "Christopher knows a lot of vendors." "He wasn't a vendor." "How do you know?" "Because vendors talk about deliveries." That man looked at the room like he was pricing it. "Dad, I don't know. I can ask?" "Please do." "I will." She sounded tired. I didn't push. For the next several days, I stayed home. People brought casseroles. I received sympathy cards from couples whose weddings Susan had helped organize. I answered the phone when I could stand it. I left it ringing when I couldn't. On Thursday, I drove to the cemetery. The ground over Susan's grave was still dark and uneven. Someone had left the yellow daisies. I picked a plastic wrapper from the grass and put it in my truck. On Friday, I opened the hall's bookkeeping program from my home computer. My password worked, but several folders had been renamed. One folder said Legacy Records. That was where Christopher had moved my maintenance logs. I called him. "Why are my records in a legacy folder? We reorganized the system." "Who's we?" "The office." "Who in the office?" "Charles, does this matter today?" It mattered enough for somebody to move them. He sighed. "I'm in the middle of something. I'll come in Monday." "You don't need to." "I didn't ask." "We've got contractors there." "For what?" "Paint and electrical." "Who approved electrical work?" "The board discussed improvements." "I'm on the board." "You missed meetings." "I was caring for Susan." "Nobody's criticizing that. You're using it. I'm not doing this over the phone." "Good. I'll see you Monday." He was quiet for a second. "Call first." I hung up. Monday morning was exactly 1 week after Susan's funeral. I put on clean work pants and the blue shirt she liked. I carried my old ring of keys in my right hand. The parking lot had 3 contractor vans in it. A temporary sign was leaning against the side entrance. It had been covered with a tarp, but I could see fresh black lettering beneath one corner. The old exterior sign still read, Elkhorn Grange Hall. I went to the front door. That was when my key stopped working. After Christopher left me standing outside, I sat in my truck for several minutes. Through the lobby glass, I watched him speak to one of the painters. Both men looked toward me. I considered calling Robin. Then I decided I wanted to see what she would do without warning. I drove to her house. Christopher's truck wasn't there. Robin's car was parked beside the garage. I knocked twice before she answered. She wore old jeans and one of Susan's cardigans. Seeing it on her made me forget my anger for a second. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Christopher changed the locks. Her face shifted. "What?" "At the hall." I understood that. "Did you know?" She opened the door wider. "Come inside." "I'd rather you answer." She glanced toward the neighboring house, then stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. "He said he was updating security." "When?" "I don't know. A few days ago." "Did he tell you I wouldn't have a key?" "No." "Did you ask?" "Why would I ask that? Because it's my hall." "It's the club's hall." That sentence stopped me. Robin saw it. I mean, the club operates it. The county owns it. I know that. Do you? Dad, please don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I'm trying to find out what you know. I know Christopher's trying to keep things running. I know you're grieving. I know every conversation turns into an argument. He took down your mother's plaque. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. They're painting over the wall now, I said. He told me they were cleaning it. Cleaning brass requires gray paint? I'll call him. Call him now. She folded her arms around herself. I don't want to do this on the porch. Neither do I. Then come inside. No. She looked at my keys. Dad, it could be a misunderstanding. A locksmith installed new cylinders on 4 doors. That takes planning. You checked all 4? I checked the front. Christopher told me the rest. What exactly did he say? He said everyone agrees I shouldn't carry the hall's stress. He mentioned my age. Robin looked away. Did you agree with him? I said you needed rest. That's not what I asked. I didn't tell him to lock you out. Did you know he planned to? No, I believed her. That didn't make her innocent. It made her useful to him. I put my keys in my pocket. Tell Christopher not to throw away the plaque. He wouldn't do that. Tell him anyway. I walked back to my truck. Robin called after me. Dad, what are you going to do? At that moment, I didn't have an answer. I drove home and made a sandwich I didn't eat. Then I pulled the fireproof box from the closet. The lease was beneath our marriage certificate and Susan's life insurance papers. It was 9 pages long, with a county seal on the last page. I remembered signing it. The building had been half abandoned in 1998. Pigeons lived in the rafters. The banquet room smelled like wet plaster. One county commissioner called it a liability with windows. The county agreed to lease it to me for $1 a year. In return, I accepted personal responsibility for preserving it. Susan had stood beside me at the signing. Afterward, we ate hamburgers in the truck because every chair inside the building was covered in dust. I turned to the section marked Assignment and Succession. The language was still there. The lease was personal to Charles Freeman, sole responsible tenant of record. It could not be assigned or transferred without written approval from the county commission. Any unauthorized replacement of the responsible tenant ended the lease automatically. Christopher could control the club's checking account. He could persuade Robin to sign internal papers. He could rename every folder in the office. None of that made him the county's tenant. The club's limited liability company hadn't even existed when I signed the lease. I formed it 17 years later to handle events and payroll. Its right to use the building came through me. I knew all of that. What I didn't know was whether the county's copy still matched mine. I had renewed the preservation agreement every year, but offices change. Records get scanned, pages get mislabeled. Christopher had been spending a great deal of time downtown lately. I found Teresa Castillo's private office number in my address book. Teresa had known Susan and me for 30 years. She was the Park County clerk and recorder, and she didn't enjoy surprises involving public records. She answered on the 4th ring, clerk and recorder. Teresa, it's Charles. Her voice softened. Oh, Charles. I've been meaning to call. How are you holding up? I'm upright. That's not the same thing. It's what I have today. She waited. What can I do for you? I need you to check a record quietly. What kind of record? The 1998 ground lease for the Elkhorn Grange Hall. I know the one. I have my certified copy open. All right, I need to know who your office currently shows as tenant of record. You. I need you to look. There was a pause. Has somebody told you otherwise? Not directly. What happened? Christopher changed the locks this morning. Teresa stopped speaking. I could hear papers moving on her desk. Then she said, Don't call anyone else yet. I wasn't planning to. Give me 10 minutes. I'm going downstairs myself. 10 minutes became 23. I left the lease open on the kitchen table. I didn't touch anything else in the box. At 11:14, Teresa called back. I have the original file in front of me, she said. What does it say? It names Charles Freeman as the sole responsible tenant. No amendments, none. No transfer, no. What about the annual renewals? They're all here. The latest one was recorded in January. Your signature, the preservation officer's signature, and the county stamp. I looked down at my copy. So nothing changed. Nothing legal changed. I heard the difference in her wording. What did change? She took a breath. There was a records request. From whom? Christopher Reynolds. When? The Wednesday after Susan's funeral. That was 2 days after we buried her. What did he request? The ground lease, annual renewals, preservation reports, and any documents related to transfer of tenancy. Did you speak to him? One of my deputies did. I'm checking the notes now. I waited while she turned pages. He asked whether the tenant of record could be replaced through a change in club management. What did your deputy tell him? That management of a private company doesn't change a county lease. And then, he asked what would happen if the tenant became unable to perform his duties. The room went very still. What answer did he get? He was told that would depend on the facts. He was also told nothing could change without county review. Did he file anything? No. Did he ask for forms? Yes. What kind? Transfer forms. A request for commission consideration. He didn't submit either one. I moved the lease away from the edge of the table. Teresa, I need copies of the request and those notes. I can certify them this afternoon. I don't want Christopher alerted. A records request is public, Charles. So is his name. That isn't what I mean. I know what you mean. Can anyone see that I asked? Not unless they ask for my internal access log. Even then, checking our own records is ordinary business. All right, you should talk to Gregory. I intend to. She went quiet again. Charles, did Christopher say you were unable to manage the hall? He said I shouldn't carry the stress. He mentioned my age and the funeral. That sounds rehearsed. It sounded gentle. That's usually how rehearsed things sound. I closed the fireproof box. I'll come by around 2. Use the basement entrance. I'll meet you near archives. I thanked her and hung up. For several minutes I sat at the table with my hands flat against the wood. Christopher had requested transfer forms 2 days after Susan's funeral. At the reception, he'd carried a folder into the office and asked Robin for signatures. That didn't prove what the folder contained. It didn't prove Robin knew about the records request. It didn't prove Christopher had a complete plan. It proved he had lied on my porch. Changing the locks wasn't an emergency security update. He had already been asking how to replace me. I found one of Susan's old yellow legal pads in the desk drawer. She used them for grocery lists, volunteer schedules, and recipes she changed without writing down the changes. On the first page, I wrote the date. Then I wrote the time my key failed, what Christopher said at the door, and what Robin said on her porch. I included ordinary details, the painters, the gray wall, the plaque face down on the table, Christopher's brass key, Eric from Bozeman at the funeral reception. At the bottom, I wrote Teresa's exact words about the records request. I wasn't building a case yet. I was making sure nobody could later tell me I'd remembered the order wrong. That was my first deliberate decision. I would stop reacting to Christopher one conversation at a time. I would write down what happened. I would check everything he said. Most importantly, I wouldn't tell him I was doing it. At 1:30, I drove downtown. Teresa met me in a narrow basement hallway lined with gray metal doors. She carried a red file jacket against her chest. "You look cold," she said. I forgot my jacket. Susan would be annoyed. She usually was. Teresa gave me a sad smile. "Come on." The archive room smelled like paper and concrete. A long table stood beneath 2 fluorescent lights. Teresa set down the file and put on thin cotton gloves. The original lease was clipped inside. I recognized my own signature. In 1998, I'd pressed too hard with the pen and left an impression through the carbon copy. Teresa pointed to the tenant line. "Just you." She turned to the assignment section. "Just like you said. I knew what it said. I know. I needed to see what your copy said. That was wise." She showed me the annual preservation certificates. Everyone named me. The county's file held photographs of roof work, window repairs, and masonry reports. Susan appeared in some of the older pictures, usually holding a clipboard. Teresa stopped at a photograph from 1999. Susan stood in the unfinished banquet room with dust in her hair. She had one hand on her hip and the other pointed toward the ceiling. "You remember this?" Teresa asked. She'd just discovered the light fixtures were hung crooked. "They looked straight to me. That was because you valued peace." Teresa slid the photograph back into its sleeve. Then she removed a single-page request form. Christopher's name was typed at the top. The request listed the lease and every related occupancy document. His stated purpose was organizational succession planning. I read that phrase twice. Did Robin's name appear anywhere? No. Did he identify himself as a managing member? He wrote facility manager. He isn't a managing member. I wondered about that. He runs daily operations. That's all. Teresa handed me the deputy's contact note. The handwriting was clear. Christopher had asked whether medical inability could support replacement of the responsible tenant. He had also asked whether a family member could act on the tenant's behalf during a period of incapacity. The deputy had written one final line. Caller advised formal county review required. Caller expressed urgency. Urgency, I said. Teresa pulled out a chair. Sit down, Charles. I'm fine. You can be fine sitting down. I sat. She took the chair across from me. Do you have any medical condition that affects your ability to make decisions? No. Any diagnosis Christopher might know about? My knee hurts. I take blood pressure pills. I forget why I walk into the garage about once a week. So do I. Then, apparently the county needs new management. She didn't laugh. I'm asking seriously. So am I. There's nothing. Have you signed a power of attorney? Gregory has a limited one for certain filings. Robin is named as backup for health decisions. Nothing gives Christopher authority. Could Robin have signed something? Yeah, I don't know. You should ask her. Not yet. Teresa studied me. Why not? Because if she knows, she'll defend it. If she doesn't know, she'll ask him. Either way, he learns I'm checking. And you don't want that. I want to know what he believes he's doing. She rested one hand on the red file. I can give you certified copies. I can also put a notation on the electronic record that any inquiry about transfer comes directly to me. Would that be unusual? No. You're the responsible tenant. Do it. I'll need your written request. She slid a form across the table. I filled it out. My handwriting was steady. Teresa stamped the copies and placed them in a large brown envelope. Before sealing it, she added a copy of Christopher's request and the deputy's note. You didn't get these from me as a friend, she said. I got them from the clerk and recorder. Correct. What would you do? She considered that. I'd call Gregory, then I'd change the locks on my own house. That seems excessive. Maybe. I don't know your son-in-law. You've met him. I've met his manners. I left through the basement entrance. Gregory Garner's office was 3 blocks away, above an insurance agency. He'd represented Susan and me since the early 80s. His waiting room still had the same brass coat rack, although nobody remembered who bought it. His receptionist, Elaine Porter, looked up when I came in. Charles, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Elaine. Is Gregory free? He has a call at 3. This won't wait. She looked at the envelope under my arm, then pressed the intercom. Gregory opened his office door himself. He was 73 and had been threatening to retire for 10 years. His white hair needed cutting. His tie had a coffee spot near the bottom. He hugged me without asking. That nearly undid me. I held the envelope against his back until he let go. How are you? He asked. People keep asking that. People don't know what else to say. Christopher changed the hall locks. Gregory's face hardened. Sit down. I gave him Teresa's copies. He read the records request first. Then he read the contact note. Did Robin know about this? He asked. She says she didn't know I'd be locked out. That isn't the same question. I know. He opened a cabinet and removed a thick blue binder. The label read, Freeman Hall Social Club, LLC. Gregory was the registered agent. He kept the signed operating agreement in that binder. We had formed the company in 2015. I did it because the hall had grown beyond what Susan and I could manage through handwritten ledgers. The company handled bookings, employees, and event expenses. I was a managing member. Robin was the other managing member. Christopher had no ownership interest. Gregory flipped to the management section. Have you ever signed an amendment adding Christopher? No. Have you ever voted to remove yourself? No. Have you authorized him to act as sole manager? No. Then he had no authority to exclude you from company premises. The premises belong to the county. You know what I mean. I do. Gregory read the deputy's note again. He's testing 2 routes, he said. What routes? One through the club, one through the county. Explain that without billing me by the syllable. He leaned back. If he gets control of the company, he controls the business operating inside the hall. But the company can only occupy the building because you hold the county lease. So he also needs me replaced on the lease. Yes. He asked whether medical inability would do it. I see that. Why would he think I'm medically unable? That's what we need to find out. I watched him turn the page. Could Robin remove me from the company? Not by herself. The agreement requires both managing members for that kind of change. What if she signed papers at the funeral? Depends what she signed. I saw Christopher take her into the office with a folder. Did you ask? Not then. You need to. Teresa said that too. She's right. I'm not asking yet. Gregory set his glasses on the desk. You came here because you wanted advice. I came because you have the operating agreement. You also want advice. I want facts first. All right? Here's a fact. If Christopher is preparing to claim you're unable to manage your affairs, delay can help him. Confronting him can also help him. How? He'll know what I've found. Then he'll change his explanation. Gregory rubbed the bridge of his nose. You always were difficult. You charged me for it. I still do. I pointed to the records request. Can you find out whether he filed anything involving the LLC? As registered agent, I should receive notice of formal changes. Should. People file things incorrectly. Check. I will. And don't call Christopher. I wasn't planning to. Don't call Robin either. He looked at me over his glasses. That's harder. She may not know. She may know more than you think. I'll deal with Robin when I understand what she's protecting. Gregory closed the binder. What do you want done about the locks? Nothing today. You're entitled to access. I know. A letter from me would get your key returned. It would get me a key. It wouldn't tell me why he needed me outside. Gregory studied me for a moment. Then he nodded. Keep notes. I started. Save messages. Don't delete anything, even if it seems ordinary. And stop discussing business on the phone if you can avoid it. What about email? Save it. Don't assume it's private. He copied the county documents and returned my envelope. As I stood, he said, Charles, grief can make people doubt themselves. I'm not confused. I didn't say you were. I'm telling you what Christopher may rely on. I put the envelope under my arm. Then he's relying on the wrong thing. Outside, the wind had picked up. I finally admitted Teresa was right about the jacket. I drove past the hall on my way home. The tarp had been removed from the temporary sign. It said, Freeman Hall, a new tradition begins. The word Grange was gone, so was Susan's name. A delivery truck stood near the kitchen entrance. Christopher was speaking to the driver. Robin held a clipboard beside him. I pulled into the lot. Robin saw me first. She said something to Christopher, then walked over. I was going to call you, she said. When? After we finished. Finished what? Inventory. I pointed toward the sign. What's that? A temporary banner. I can see that. We're testing new branding. Who approved it? The marketing committee. We don't have a marketing committee. We do now. Who's on it? She looked back at Christopher. That answered me. Dad, it's just a name. No. Elkhorn Grange Hall is a name. Freeman Hall is another name. Which one are you operating? The same place, with different locks. She lowered her voice. Christopher said he offered to get you a key. He didn't. He said you left before he could. I stood there while he told me everyone agreed I was too old and upset to carry the stress. He didn't say too old. He said, at your age. That could mean anything. It meant my age. Christopher came toward us. Charles, I don't want another scene. There wasn't a first one. You came to Robin's house angry. I asked her a question. She's been through enough. I looked at Robin. Is that what you told him? She gripped the clipboard with both hands. I told him you were upset. Were you going to tell me about the banner? We were going to show you. When? Dad, please. Christopher stepped between us without quite making it obvious. The hall needs consistency right now. Then give me a key. We're issuing new access codes next week. The new locks use keys. The office door will have a code. I asked for a key. You need to take some time. That isn't your decision. His jaw tightened. Behind him, the driver rolled a handcart through the kitchen entrance. The door shut and locked automatically. Christopher said, We'll talk when everyone's calmer. I looked at the temporary sign again. The banner wasn't professionally mounted. Wind had pulled one corner loose, exposing the old Elkhorn lettering underneath. I'm calm now, I said. Then I returned to my truck. At home, I added the banner to the yellow pad. I wrote down the exact wording. I noted Robin's clipboard, the delivery truck, and the automatic lock on the kitchen door. I also wrote that Christopher refused me a key twice. At 6:20, Robin sent a text. I'm sorry today got tense. We love you. Please let us help. I read it several times. Then I took a screenshot and saved it. I didn't reply. At 7, Gregory called. I checked the state filing system, he said. No changes to the LLC. That's good. Maybe. Someone downloaded a certified copy of the operating documents last month. Can you see who? Not from the public system. Could Christopher have done it? Anybody could. So, we have a lease request and a company request. We have one confirmed request and one anonymous download. What do you think? I think you were right not to send a letter today. I picked up Susan's yellow pad. What changed your mind? Christopher isn't improvising. I looked at Robin's message again. No, I said, he isn't. After the call, I carried the fireproof box back to the closet. Before putting it away, I removed the certified lease. I placed it in a separate envelope with Teresa's records and wrote the date across the seal. Then I took the box off the top shelf. I moved it behind the old cedar chest where it couldn't be seen from the bedroom doorway. When I returned to the kitchen, the legal pad was still open under the light. At the top of a new page, I wrote one question. What does Christopher need me declared unable to do? I underlined it once. Then I turned off the kitchen light and left the question on the table. The next morning, Robin let herself into my house at 8:15. I was shaving when I heard the front door. She still had the key we'd given her years ago. Susan liked knowing Robin could get inside if one of us fell. Dad, she called. Bathroom. I brought groceries. I have groceries. You have mustard and half a loaf of bread. That qualifies. She came down the hall carrying 2 paper bags. I finished shaving and found her putting eggs in the refrigerator. She'd brought soup, sliced turkey, bananas, and a package of blueberry muffins. You didn't need to do this, I said. I wanted to. Thank you. She looked toward the kitchen table. Are you keeping a journal? I closed the yellow pad. Just notes. About what? Things I don't want to forget. Her eyes stayed on it for another second. That's probably good. The way she said it made me look at her. What does that mean? Nothing. Mom always made lists. Your mother made lists because I forgot to buy onions. Robin busied herself with the grocery bags. I didn't mean anything. I opened the refrigerator. You bought me 3 kinds of soup. They were on sale. Your mother hated split pea. I know. You like it. I do. That seemed to surprise her. Robin knew I ate split pea soup. She'd known it since she was young. Still, she looked at the can like it had offered new evidence. I leaned against the counter. Did you ask Christopher why he took down the plaque? He said the painters removed everything from that wall. Is it going back? He said it would be stored safely. That wasn't the question. We haven't decided where everything will go. Everything? Pictures, awards, old event posters? Your mother isn't an old event poster. I know that. Then why didn't you tell him to put it back? Her shoulders dropped. I can't fight about every detail right now. Then pick the important ones. That's easy for you to say? How? You don't have to go home with him. There it was. She hadn't meant to say it. I could tell by the way she turned toward the sink. I lowered my voice. Is something happening between you two? No. You just said you have to go home with him. I meant I have to live with the argument. You get to say whatever you want, then leave. He changed my locks. I know. He took your mother's plaque down. I know. He asked the county how to replace me. Robin turned around. What? I had gone one sentence too far. I watched her face. Did you know that? I asked. No. Replace you how? At the hall. Who told you? I checked. Checked where? The county keeps records. She took out her phone. Don't call him. Why not? Because I'm asking what you know. I don't know anything about that. Then don't warn him I checked. I'm not warning him. You're holding your phone. She put it face down on the counter. This is exactly what I mean. You come at me with something and expect an answer immediately. I asked one question. You keep asking questions like, I'm under oath. I'm trying to understand why my daughter is helping her husband push me out. I'm not pushing you out. Then get me a key. She stared at the floor. I'll talk to him. You already did. I'll talk to him again. What did he tell you the first time? That you were overwhelmed, that you were showing up without warning and challenging every decision. I showed up at a building I've opened for 28 years. I know how it sounds. How does it look? She picked up the empty grocery bags and folded them together. I have to go. Robin, I brought you food. Can that just be what happened this morning? She walked toward the front door. I followed her into the living room. On the coffee table were 4 glossy pamphlets. They hadn't been there before. One showed a smiling gray-haired couple walking beside a pond. Another showed a dining room with white tablecloths and fake flowers. The largest said, Independent Living With. Support when you need it. What are those? I asked. Robin stopped. She looked at the pamphlets, then at me. I don't know. You brought them in? They must have been in the grocery bag. Soup doesn't come with retirement housing. Maybe Mom picked them up. Your mother died before these were printed. The date was on the back. June of that year. Robin's face reddened. Christopher brought home a packet. I must have grabbed some papers from the car with the bags. Why did Christopher have them? We've been looking at options. For whom? For you, eventually. Eventually arrived quickly. Nobody's moving you anywhere. He changed my locks. Now you're leaving assisted living brochures on my table. I told you, that was an accident. Taking them from his car was an accident. Looking at them wasn't. She pressed the folded bags against her chest. Dad, you're alone in this house. I'm aware. The stairs are steep. The bathroom's upstairs. You barely ate at the funeral. Your mother had just been buried. I know. Do you? She flinched. I regretted saying it, but I didn't take it back. Robin reached for the door. I'm trying to help you. Then ask what help I need. You'd say none. Try me. What do you need? I need my key to the hall. I need Susan's plaque returned. I need Christopher to stop asking public offices how to replace me. Her hand rested on the doorknob. I'll talk to him. Leave your house key. She turned. What? The key to this house. Dad? Please. You think I'm going to move you out while you're sleeping? I think papers appeared in my living room without my knowledge. They fell out of a bag. Leave the key. She pulled her key ring from her purse. Susan had given her a small brass tag shaped like a leaf. The house key was beside it. Robin struggled with the split ring. I almost told her to forget it. Then I pictured Susan's plaque face down on that folding table. Robin placed the key in my palm. Are you satisfied? No. She left before I could say anything else. I stood at the window and watched her back out of the driveway. She didn't look toward the house. The brochures stayed on the coffee table. I didn't throw them away. I wrote the date on each one and placed them in the brown envelope with Teresa's records. Then I added the conversation to the yellow pad. At 10, I walked to the mailbox. There were 2 advertisements and a postcard from a roofing company. No sympathy cards, no utility bill, no bank statement. That didn't seem strange by itself. Mail had been arriving unevenly since the funeral. Some days the box was full, other days it held nothing. Susan had handled most household bills online. I still preferred paper statements. The electric bill usually arrived during the second week of the month. It was already late. I checked the kitchen counter, the desk, and the stack beside Susan's chair. Nothing. I called the power company. A woman named Janice asked for my account number. I don't have the statement, I said. That's why I'm calling. She verified my address and date of birth. Your bill was mailed 8 days ago. It hasn't arrived. I can send another copy. Did the mailing address change? No. What about the account contact? There was a pause. I show an additional authorized contact. Who? Christopher Reynolds. I sat down. When was he added? Last week. By whom? I'm not able to see that from this screen. I didn't authorize him. He may have been added through your online account. I don't use the online account. Your wife may have. My wife was dead last week. Janice went quiet. I'm sorry, sir. Remove him. I can do that after additional verification. She asked 4 security questions. I answered them all. When she finished, she said, the additional contact has been removed. I'm also placing a security note on the account. Can you tell me what email was used? She read an address belonging to Christopher. I wrote it down. Was the paper bill canceled? Yes. The preference changed to electronic delivery. Change it back. I'll do that. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I called the water department. Christopher had been added there too. The water account still had paper delivery, but the mailing address had changed to the club's post office box. I called the natural gas company. No changes. I called my insurance agent. Christopher wasn't authorized on the policy, but someone had requested a copy of the declaration page. The request had been denied because the caller couldn't answer a verification question. What question? I asked. Your wedding date. I looked at the framed photograph beside the phone. Christopher knew the month. He apparently didn't know the day. I asked the agent to add a verbal password to the account. What would you like it to be? She asked. I thought for a moment. Cream tablecloth. She repeated it. That's unusual. It'll do. At noon, I drove to the post office. The clerk behind the counter was a broad man with reading glasses hanging from a cord. His name tag said Martin Dale. I showed him my identification. My household mail has been arriving late, I said. Some bills aren't arriving at all. Have you submitted a hold or forwarding order? No. He typed my address into his computer. There's no active forward. What about an authorized contact? Martin looked at the screen longer than I liked. There was a change request. When? 9 days ago. Who filed it? I can't give you personal information about another customer. It concerns my address. He looked at my identification again. Let me get the supervisor. The supervisor was a woman named Lena Morris. She took me into a small office with a copier and 2 plastic chairs. She asked the same questions. I gave the same answers. Then she printed a scanned form. The form authorized Christopher to receive notices and manage held mail from my address. It also requested that mail requiring a signature be redirected for pickup. My name was typed at the bottom. The signature wasn't mine. It wasn't a good imitation either. The first letter was too round. I'd signed my name the same way since I learned cursive. Where did this come from? I asked. It was submitted at the service window. By Christopher? I can't confirm the identity of the person who presented it. Was identification checked? The person presented identification for the authorized contact. Not for me. No. Is that enough? It shouldn't have been processed without verification from the primary resident. But it was. Yes. Lena looked embarrassed. I can cancel it immediately. I want a copy. I can give you a certified transaction record. For the scanned form, I'll need a written request. She brought me another form. I completed it at the copier. Has anyone picked up my mail? I asked. She checked the screen. One item requiring a signature was collected 3 days ago. What item? The sender is listed as Mountain West Financial Services. I don't know them. The collection record shows the authorized contact, Christopher. She didn't say yes, but she didn't need to. What else was held? 2 first-class envelopes and 1 certified notice. Where are they? The first-class envelopes were picked up. The certified notice is still here. Can I have it? She retrieved a white envelope from a locked cabinet. It was addressed to me at my home. The return address belonged to a company in Helena that administered benefit and estate planning seminars. Inside was a confirmation letter. It thanked me for scheduling an in-home estate consultation with Norman Shelton. The appointment was set for the following Tuesday at 10 in the morning. I had never heard of Norman Shelton. I read the letter again. Did this require a signature? No. The other item did. Can you tell me what Mountain West Financial Services sent? Only the sender can tell you that. I folded the consultation letter and put it back in the envelope. Lena canceled the authorization. She added a note that no changes could be made without my physical presence and photo identification. Then she handed me a stamped copy of the cancellation. I'm sorry this happened, she said. Whoever submitted it knew your process. That's possible. Would Christopher know it from managing the club's mail? She kept her expression neutral. He could. Outside, I sat in my truck with the envelope on the passenger seat. The assisted living brochures could be explained as concern. The utility changes could be called convenience. Christopher could claim he redirected mail because I was grieving, and he wanted to handle paperwork. Each thing had a soft explanation. Together, they formed a hand closing around my life. I called Gregory from the parking lot. He answered with, "What happened? How did you know something happened? You don't call me twice in 2 days for companionship." I told him about the utility accounts, the postal authorization, and the missing signed item. "Do you have the form?" he asked. I requested it. "Good. I also have an appointment next Tuesday." "With whom?" "A man named Norman Shelton. Apparently he's coming to my house to discuss my estate." "Did you schedule it?" "No, cancel it." I looked at the letter. "Why?" "Because you didn't schedule it. If I cancel, I won't know why he's coming." Gregory was silent. "Charles, don't play games with someone who may be collecting information about you." "I won't play anything." "What are you proposing?" "I'll let him come. You find out who he is first. And if he asks for documents, he won't get them. If he asks you to sign something, he'll leave disappointed." Gregory sighed. "I don't like it. You don't have to. I'm your lawyer. You're also the man I'm asking to check his name." "I heard you." I picked up the confirmation letter. "Don't contact him, I won't. And don't tell Robin." "I know." When I got home, the red light on my answering machine was blinking. Christopher's voice filled the kitchen. Charles, Robin told me you got upset about those housing brochures. Nobody's trying to move you anywhere. We're concerned, that's all. Please don't turn this into something it isn't. The message ended. I played it once more. Then I wrote down every word. He had called before Robin could have known about the post office. He believed I was still reacting to pamphlets. I decided to let him keep believing that. I placed Norman Shelton's letter beside the yellow pad. Then I drew a box around Tuesday's appointment. For the first time since Susan died, I checked every window before going upstairs. The following Monday, Gregory called while I was making breakfast. I found Norman Shelton, he said, and he runs a consulting business out of Helena. Estate planning, retirement transitions, family financial meetings. Is he licensed? He has an insurance license and some financial certifications. He's not an attorney, he's not a physician. Does he usually visit people who never hired him? I doubt that's his best business model. Who scheduled him? I'm still working on that. Is he dangerous? That depends on what he wants. I meant physically. No criminal record, no complaints I could find. He's 61, married, and he gives seminars at hotels. That sounds manageable. I still think you should cancel. I'll call you after he leaves. Call me while he's there if anything feels wrong. I will. And don't sign anything. You've said that? I'm going to keep saying it. I ate my eggs, washed the plate, and went through my usual morning. I didn't want Norman walking into a house that looked staged. I left Susan's reading glasses beside her chair. I left the newspaper open on the kitchen table. I didn't hide the yellow pad, but I put it in a drawer. At 9:45 Tuesday morning, a silver sedan parked across from my house. Norman stayed inside for several minutes. He seemed to be reading something in his lap. At 9:58, he walked up the path carrying a leather folder. He wore tan trousers, a blue shirt, and a narrow pattern tie. He looked like someone who'd sell you a retirement plan during lunch, then charge you for the sandwich. I opened the door before he rang. Mr. Freeman? Yes, Norman Shelton. Thank you for making time. I wasn't aware I had. His smile remained in place. There may have been some confusion with the scheduling. Come in. He wiped his shoes carefully and followed me to the kitchen. His eyes moved around the room. He noticed Susan's chair. He noticed the pill bottles beside the sink. He noticed the calendar on the refrigerator. Would you like coffee? I asked. No, thank you. I poured myself a cup. Norman sat at the table and opened his folder. The first page had my name at the top. Before we start, I'd like to express my condolences. Thank you. I understand this has been a difficult period. It has. Major life changes can make ordinary decisions feel overwhelming. Which decisions? Finances, housing, daily support, estate organization. Who told you I needed help with those? He adjusted the folder. I speak with many families. You're speaking with me. Of course. Who gave you my name? I believe the referral came through a family contact. Which one? I'd have to check. You have my name, address, phone number, and appointment time. Check. He turned over one page as though the answer might be underneath. Christopher Reynolds was involved in the initial conversation. Involved how? He expressed general concern. Did he hire you? We can discuss billing later. That means yes. Norman rested both hands on the folder. Mr. Freeman, I don't want this to feel adversarial. It didn't until you avoided a simple question. He nodded slowly. That's fair. Christopher arranged the initial consultation. Did he pay you? He covered the consultation fee. How much? That's between my office and the referring party. What did he ask you to do? To meet with you, to understand your current needs. Did he tell you I agreed? He indicated you were aware of the meeting. He lied. Norman looked toward the refrigerator calendar. The current month was printed in large black letters. What's today's date? He asked. The change was so abrupt I almost laughed. Tuesday, June 23rd, and the year, 2026. He picked up his pen. What are you writing? Basic intake information. You didn't need a pen to hear the year. He stopped writing. These are routine orientation questions. Orientation to what? To make sure we're communicating clearly. We were, until you started testing me. I'm not testing you. What's my daughter's name? He paused. I'm sorry? You were going to ask. Her name is Robin Reynolds. She was born Robin Freeman. She is 42. Christopher is her husband. Norman closed his mouth. I continued. My wife's name was Susan. She died this month at 68. I'm 71. I live on Calendar Street in Livingston, Montana. You arrived in a silver sedan and parked across the street at 9:45. He looked down at his folder. I don't think this approach is productive. Neither do I. I came because people close to you are worried. Which people? Christopher, certainly. Anyone else? He described family concerns. That isn't a name. Norman shifted in his chair. Have you had trouble remembering appointments recently? No. Have you become confused while handling bills? No. Has anyone told you that you repeat questions? No. Have you felt unusually suspicious? There it is. He put down his pen. What? You ask questions about my memory. When I remember too much, you call it suspicion. I haven't called it anything. You just asked. It's a standard question. Standard for estate planning? For evaluating what services might help. What service helps with suspicion? Mr. Freeman, answer me. He looked toward the doorway. I didn't move. Norman said, sometimes grief can increase anxiety. It can also affect concentration. Did Christopher tell you I was anxious? He said you'd become confrontational. About what? Changes at a community property. He called it community property? I don't recall his exact phrase. I do. Norman opened the folder again. Perhaps we should step back. Good idea. I'd like to understand your current financial responsibilities. No. Do you manage your own bank accounts? Yes. Do you know approximately how much you have in checking? Yes. Do you pay household bills yourself? Yes. Are there other people authorized on those accounts? That's none of your business. He made another mark on the page. What did you write? Client declined. I'm not your client. Prospective client. No. He turned the folder toward himself. Would you be willing to complete a short screening questionnaire? No. It takes about 10 minutes. No. It may reassure your family. My family can ask me questions without paying a stranger. Sometimes an independent person is helpful. You're being paid by Christopher. That doesn't make you independent. His face tightened for the first time. I maintain professional standards. Then show me the agreement he signed. I can't disclose another client's documents. Am I the client, or is he? Norman didn't answer. I stood. We're finished. He stayed seated. I'd like to leave some information. Take it with you. Mr. Freeman, refusing assistance may reinforce the concerns that led to this visit. That sentence told me more than everything else. I looked at the folder. Is that what you plan to write? I plan to document the meeting accurately. Then write that I answered every factual question. Write that I refused to discuss private finances with a man I didn't hire. Write that you were paid by my son-in-law, who lied about my agreement to meet you. I didn't say he lied. I did. Norman rose and slid the folder under his arm. I'm sorry we couldn't have a more constructive conversation. It was constructive for me. He moved toward the front door. Before opening it, he turned. Your daughter cares about you. Did you speak to Robin? I'm not at liberty to discuss that. That means either you did, or you want me to think you did. He left without answering. I watched from the front window until the silver sedan disappeared. Then I went to the kitchen, pulled out the yellow pad, and wrote everything I could remember. I included each question. The date, the year, Robin's name, my bank accounts, suspicion, confusion, repeated questions. I wrote Norman's exact sentence about refusing assistance, reinforcing concerns. That line received its own box. When I finished, I called Gregory. He wasn't there to discuss my estate, I said. What happened? I read in my notes. Gregory didn't interrupt until I reached the end. Did you sign anything? No. Did he leave anything? No. Did he identify a physician supervising him? No. Did he use the words capacity or competency? No. He was careful. So was I. What did he observe in the house? Everything he could see. Medication, blood pressure pills, alcohol, none. Unpaid bills, none. Any reason he could describe the house as unsafe? No. Gregory exhaled. I'm going to find out exactly what Christopher purchased. How? Norman has a business. Businesses send invoices. Don't alert him. I can make inquiries without using your name. I looked at the notes. What can someone do with an interview like that? By itself, not much. That isn't an answer. He can write an opinion. Christopher can wave it around. A court would expect more than a consultant's opinion. A court? I'm telling you the outer limit. Why would a court be involved? I don't know that one will be. I waited. Gregory said, Charles, it's time for you to get an independent evaluation. I don't need a doctor to tell me today's date. You need a qualified doctor to put in writing what Norman isn't qualified to decide. That makes this sound real. It became real when Christopher paid a stranger to ask about your memory. I stood at the kitchen window. A lawn sprinkler clicked across the neighbor's grass. Who do you recommend? Dr. Sherry Steele. I don't know her. She's a geriatric physician in Bozeman. She's thorough. She won't do favors for me or anyone else. When can she see me? I'll call. No. Give me the number. I'll make the appointment myself. He gave it to me. Dr. Steele's office had a cancellation Thursday afternoon. I drove to Bozeman with Susan's medication list, my bank statements, the yellow pad, and a copy of the lease. Gregory told me not to bring unnecessary documents. I brought them anyway. Dr. Steele was 58 and wore red-framed glasses. She didn't rush. She asked why I wanted the evaluation. My son-in-law hired a financial consultant to test my memory without telling me. Why do you believe he was testing your memory? I showed her my notes. She read every page. Then she asked questions Norman hadn't asked. Had I fallen recently? No. Did I cook? Yes. Did I drive at night? When necessary. Who handled my medications? I did. How had I been sleeping since Susan died? Poorly. Was I drinking more? No. Did I feel hopeless? Some mornings. Had I considered harming myself? No. She performed memory exercises. She gave me words to remember, then distracted me with other questions. She asked me to draw a clock. She had me explain how I'd respond to a leaking pipe and a suspicious bank charge. At one point, she asked me to subtract 7 repeatedly from 100. I dislike this already, I said. That's not a diagnosis. I completed it. The appointment lasted nearly 2 hours. At the end, she folded her hands on the desk. You're grieving, she said. I know. Grief affects sleep, appetite, patience, and concentration. That doesn't mean a person lacks capacity. What does your examination show? No evidence of cognitive impairment. You understand your finances, property, medical care, and legal relationships. Your judgment is intact. Can you put that in writing? Yes. How soon? Early next week. Make it detailed. I always do. She looked at my yellow pad. Do you feel safe at home? Yes. Has anyone pressured you to move? I thought about the brochures. They're beginning to. Has anyone taken money? Not that I know. Has anyone restricted your access to property? Yes. What property? The hall. She asked several more questions about Christopher and Robin. I answered carefully. Before I left, she said, Don't let anyone frame ordinary grief as proof that you can't make decisions. I don't intend to. On Friday morning, Gregory called. I found the invoice, he said. How? Norman's office administrator confirmed the service category before realizing I wasn't calling from an insurance company. What category? Family-directed transition and capacity consultation. There was that word. Who paid? Christopher Reynolds. Personal credit card. How much? $2,400. For one visit, for the visit and a written assessment. He's writing it, yes. Does he have enough information? That may not matter. I gripped the phone tighter. Did Robin sign anything? Her name isn't on the invoice. Does Norman's office have her listed as a client? They wouldn't tell me, so we still don't know what she knows. No? I looked at Susan's chair. What does Christopher get for $2,400? A document saying whatever Norman believes he can defend. He can't defend that I'm confused. He may say you were guarded, suspicious, hostile, or resistant, because I knew the date and wouldn't show him my bank balance. That's how these descriptions work. I turned the yellow pad toward me. Until then, I'd believed Christopher wanted me away from the hall long enough to change the business. Now I understood that wasn't enough for him. He needed other people to believe I couldn't be trusted about my own life. Get the operating agreement ready, I said. It's ready. And ask Dr. Steele to send her report directly to you. I will. Keep it private. For now? For now. Gregory paused. What are you going to do? Nothing Christopher can see. At 4 that afternoon, my bank called. Cody Williams, the branch manager, asked if I could come in Monday morning. Is there a problem with my personal accounts? I asked. No. Then which account? The club's operating reserve. What happened? I'd rather show you in person. Did Christopher move money? Cody waited long enough to answer me without speaking. How much? I asked. Come in Monday, Charles. Bring identification and the company agreement. I wrote the appointment on the yellow pad. Then I moved the pad from the kitchen table and locked it inside Susan's old sewing cabinet. Cody was waiting in the lobby Monday morning. He took me into his office and closed the door. Gregory arrived a few minutes later, carrying the blue company binder. Cody checked both our identification cards before turning his monitor toward us. I'm going to be careful about what I show you, he said. You're authorized on the original club accounts. You're not authorized on the new one. What new one? I asked. He pointed to a transfer. 8 days after Susan died, $112,000 had moved from the club's operating reserve into an account called Freeman Events Development. Who opened it? Gregory asked. Robin Reynolds is listed as the owner. Christopher Reynolds is the authorized signer. Owner personally? I asked. It was opened as a business account. What business? A limited liability company registered last year. Not our company, Gregory said. Cody shook his head. No. I leaned closer to the screen. Robin moved the money. Her electronic authorization was used. Did she come into the branch? No. The transfer was initiated online. Could Christopher have done it? I can't determine who was sitting at the computer, but he could access the new account. Yes. Could he access the old one? He had operational access through the club's bookkeeping profile, not authority to transfer reserves. That's why I called you. Gregory opened the operating agreement. Both managing members must approve transfers outside ordinary operations. Cody read the section. The document we had on file was an older banking resolution. It allowed either managing member to approve routine transfers. $112,000 isn't routine, I said. No, it isn't. What was written in the transfer memo? Cody enlarged the line. Venue expansion reserve. I thought about the temporary banner. A new tradition begins. Has the money left the new account? Gregory asked. I can't discuss activity in an account you don't own. You can tell us whether our funds remain there, I said. I can confirm the receiving account still exists. Beyond that, I need a subpoena or permission from its owner. Can we reverse the transfer? Not without Robin's authorization or a legal order. Can Christopher move more? Cody turned back to the original account. I restricted external transfers this morning. Routine payments can continue. Anything above $5,000 requires in-person approval from both managing members. Will they be notified? The system will notify all account contacts. Then Christopher knows we found it, I said. He'll know the restriction changed. My phone rang before Cody finished the sentence. Christopher, I let it ring. Gregory watched the screen until it stopped. Then Robin called. I let that ring too. Cody folded his hands. There's something else. He opened an older transaction record. In September of the previous year, $340,000 had entered the Freeman Events Development account. The sender was Cardenas Private Capital. Eric, I said. Gregory looked at me. The man from the funeral? Yes. Cody nodded. The funds came through a Bozeman bank. What happened to them? I asked. I can't show you the new account's transactions. Why did you show us the deposit? Because the deposit confirmation was attached to a transfer request made from the club account. That request was denied last year. Who made it? Christopher. For how much? $80,000. What reason did he give? Construction deposit. Why was it denied? The contractor name didn't match the payee. Your approval was also required under the documentation requested by our compliance department. Did anyone contact me? The request was withdrawn before we did. Gregory wrote down the date and sender. Do you have the original request? I can provide it to Charles as an account record. Cody printed the document. Christopher's name appeared beneath the electronic submission. The attached description referred to a year-round event conversion, commercial kitchen improvements, and expanded wedding packages. Susan and I had never approved any of that. Robin had never mentioned it. Why didn't you call me last year? I asked. Cody looked uncomfortable. The request was withdrawn. No funds left the club account. Christopher had been handling daily operations for years, so it looked ordinary. Until this month. My phone rang again. Christopher. This time, Gregory said, answer it. I put the phone on speaker. What? I said. Christopher didn't bother with a greeting. Did you freeze the operating account? No. Payments are being blocked. External transfers are restricted. You had no right to do that. I'm a managing member. So is Robin. Where did the reserve money go? Silence. Then he said, it was reallocated into a company you and Robin control. For development. What development? We've discussed this. No, you discussed paint and software. You haven't been available. I was beside my dying wife. I'm not doing this if you're going to use Susan every time we discuss business. Gregory's eyes lifted from his notes. I kept my voice even. Who is Eric Cardenas? Another silence. An investor. In what? The expansion? What expansion? The hall can't survive on anniversary dinners and community rentals forever. It has survived for 27 years. Surviving isn't growing. Did Robin approve a $340,000 investment? It's financing. What did you offer him? We'll talk as a family. We're talking now. No, you're interrogating me with Gregory sitting there. I looked at Gregory. Christopher knew where I was. How do you know Gregory's here? I asked. Cody's office sent Robin a notice. That notice didn't mention Gregory. Christopher didn't answer. Are you outside the bank? I'm at the hall. Then how did you know? Because this is what you do. You run to Gregory whenever someone questions you. You hired Norman Shelton. His breathing changed. Robin told you that? Norman did. He was trying to help. He was testing my memory. You're proving why that was necessary. By remembering who paid him? I'm done with this conversation. Did Robin know why he came? Ask her. He ended the call. Cody stared at the phone. Gregory closed his notebook. He knew too much, I said. He made an educated guess. No, he knew you were here. Cody looked toward the door. Robin called the branch after the alert. My assistant may have mentioned both of you. That's probably it, Gregory said. I didn't like probably, but there were larger questions. Gregory asked Cody for every record he could legally release. Cody printed the withdrawn transfer request, the recent reserve transfer, and the account restrictions. Before we left, he said, Charles, I'm sorry I didn't flag this earlier. You flagged it now. I should have called when the first request came through. Christopher had earned trust by doing ordinary work. That doesn't excuse it. No, it explains how he used it. In the parking lot, Gregory handed me his car keys. Drive to my office. What about your car? I'll ride with you. I don't want to discuss this on the sidewalk. We spent the afternoon tracing names. Freeman Events Development had been registered in October of the previous year. Robin was listed as organizer. Christopher was listed as manager. The mailing address was the hall. The company description included event production, hospitality management, and venue development. Could Robin have formed this without understanding it? I asked. She signed the filing. That wasn't my question. Gregory removed his glasses. She could have believed it was a separate company for expansion work. Would that make sense? It could keep construction expenses separate from the club. Then why hide it from me? It wouldn't. He searched state financing records. At 4:30, he found a filing under Christopher's name. The secured party was Eric Cardenas. The filing covered event equipment, future booking income, development fees, and Christopher's personal interest in Freeman Events Development. It didn't cover the hall itself. It couldn't. Christopher didn't own the building, the land, or the lease. Gregory read the filing twice. This isn't an investment, he said. Cody said it was financing. It's a private loan. Secured by what? Mostly future income and whatever equipment they buy. That doesn't support $340,000? No. Then why would Eric lend it? Christopher guaranteed it personally. How do you know? The filing references a separate guarantee dated the same day. I sat back. The man in the polished brown shoes had attended my wife's funeral because Christopher owed him $340,000. Can you get the guarantee? I asked. I can request it as counsel for the club. Christopher may refuse. Ask Eric. That tells Eric we're investigating. He should know Christopher doesn't control the lease. Not yet. I looked at him. Why not? Because we need to know what Christopher told him first. Gregory called an attorney he knew in Bozeman. He didn't mention my name. He asked about Eric Cardenas and private venue financing. The attorney called back the next morning. Eric had financed several restaurants and event spaces. He required personal guarantees when property ownership was unclear. He was aggressive about deadlines, but he wasn't known for lending blindly. He believed something, Gregory said after the call, that Christopher would own the hall, or control it long enough to repay the loan. What repayment? We need the documents. By Wednesday, Gregory had them. The copies came from a digital financing package Christopher had submitted to a commercial equipment vendor. The vendor had included Gregory's office on a contract notice because he was the club's registered agent. The package contained a business plan, revenue projections, and the signature page of the personal guarantee. Christopher had signed in August of the previous year. The plan projected weddings every weekend, corporate retreats through winter, a permanent bar, and higher rental rates. It also assumed exclusive control of the building for at least 10 years. One page listed expected obstacles, historic use restrictions, county oversight, existing club management, founder transition. That was me. Beside founder transition, Christopher had written, expected within 12 months. Susan had been alive and cooking dinner in our kitchen when he wrote that. Gregory turned to the revenue page. The loan only works if the expansion happens, he said. What if it doesn't? Christopher still owes Eric. How much? The full $340,000, plus interest and fees. Personally, yes. Does Robin? Her signature isn't on the guarantee page. I looked through the plan again. 2 years earlier, Christopher had started discussing the venue with Eric. He'd built projections using the club's booking history. The following year, he borrowed the money in his own name. He didn't need me resting for a few weeks. He needed my position gone. The locks kept me from seeing construction. The new company held the borrowed money. The transferred reserve made the expansion look supported by the existing club. The records requests tested how to replace me. Norman's assessment gave him a reason. Susan's death hadn't started any of it. It had removed the person most likely to ask the right questions. Gregory tapped the words founder transition. He had a deadline before Susan got sick. He was waiting. For what? An opening. I read the date on the guarantee. He found one at her funeral. My phone buzzed with a message from Robin. Christopher says we need to meet. No lawyers, just family. A second message arrived. Please don't make this worse. I showed both to Gregory. What do you want to say? He asked. I looked at the guarantee bearing Christopher's signature. Nothing yet. Gregory nodded and placed the guarantee in a red folder. Then, don't answer, he said. At 9 the next morning, someone knocked on my front door. A man in a brown jacket asked whether I was Charles Freeman. When I said yes, he handed me a thick envelope. You've been served. He'd left before I opened it. The first page carried a district court heading. Robin and Christopher had filed a petition concerning my capacity to manage business and property. I read Robin's name 3 times. The petition asked for a temporary order removing me from active management of the club. It claimed I had become confused, suspicious, and hostile since Susan's death. It mentioned confrontations at the hall. It mentioned my refusal to accept housing assistance. It mentioned my decision to restrict bank transfers. Attached behind it was Norman Shelton's assessment. He wrote that I couldn't recall scheduling our appointment. He described that as a possible memory lapse. He wrote that I became defensive when asked basic questions. He wrote that I refused a financial review, displayed unusual suspicion toward family members, and became fixated on control of a community property. He did not write that Christopher scheduled the appointment without my knowledge. He did not write that Christopher paid him. He did not write that I answered every orientation question correctly. Near the end, Norman recommended a formal capacity evaluation and temporary transfer of financial authority to a trusted family member. That was the first time I knew exactly what Christopher intended to do with the assessment. He wasn't collecting ugly language for a family argument. He wanted a court order. I took the envelope to Gregory. He read the petition without speaking. His jaw tightened when he reached Norman's report. Robin signed this, I said. Yes. Does she know about Norman? The petition says the family arrange an independent consultation. That isn't an answer. No, it isn't. Christopher signed an affidavit. Gregory turned to it. Christopher described me pounding on the hall doors and frightening contractors. He said I'd accused him of stealing the building. He claimed I had forgotten prior discussions about new locks and branding. I never had those discussions. I know. He says I appeared disoriented at the funeral. You just buried your wife. He says I barely ate. That came from Robin. I looked at the page. She told him. Probably. And now it's evidence. Now it's a sentence in an affidavit. What happens next? There's a preliminary hearing in 9 days. They're asking the judge for temporary restrictions before a full evaluation. Can they get them? Not with what we have. Gregory opened his desk drawer and removed a white envelope. Dr. Steele's report was inside. It was 7 pages long. She described every test, my scores, my medical history, and my ability to understand financial and legal decisions. Her conclusion was plain. I had no evidence of cognitive impairment. I was fully competent to manage my property, finances, medical care, and business interests. She also noted that grief after a spouse's death was not incapacity. She signed this yesterday, Gregory said. Has anyone else seen it? No. Good. Charles, we need to file a response. File what's required. That includes the report. Can we wait? Not past the response deadline. When is that? Monday afternoon. Then file it Monday morning. He looked at me. You want them to believe you're unprepared. I want Christopher to keep moving. This isn't a card game. No. In a card game, Robin would know what she was holding. Gregory set down his pen. You need to decide how much you're willing to risk with her. She signed a petition to take my authority. She may believe she's protecting you. She asked a judge to believe Norman Shelton over me. I'm not defending her. It sounds close. I'm telling you that Christopher wrote most of this. Robin repeated what he gave her. She still signed. Yes, that was all I needed him to say. We prepared a short response denying every claim. Gregory attached Dr. Steele's credentials but held the full evaluation until filing day. Then I asked him to take out the original lease copy. It's in your envelope, he said. I want more than my copy. You have Teresa's certified record. I want the county's interpretation in writing. Of which section? The one Christopher keeps ignoring. Gregory turned to the assignment clause. The language said any unauthorized transfer, assignment, substitution, or replacement of the responsible tenant would terminate the lease automatically. The club had permission to occupy only under my personal tenancy. What do you want Teresa to say? He asked. The truth. She can certify records. She doesn't issue legal opinions. Then have the county attorney review it. That may alert the commission. They should be alerted. Gregory leaned back. Yesterday, you wanted quiet. Yesterday, Christopher hadn't filed a petition to replace me. The words settled between us. The petition itself asked a court to remove my managing authority. Christopher believed that would give him control of the hall. It wouldn't. If he replaced me inside the club without county approval, the club lost the only tenancy that allowed it inside the building. The company could survive on paper. The hall would not remain under it. Gregory picked up the phone. Teresa met us that afternoon in a county conference room. We brought the lease, the operating agreement, the petition, and Christopher's business plan. She read the petition first. He filed this after I told his records request couldn't change the tenant. Your deputy told him, I said. He understood. He understood enough to try another route. Teresa read the assignment section of the lease. We've never had this situation, she said. Then verify what the words mean. They mean the lease can't be handed to someone else. What if someone takes control without asking? That's replacement. And what happens? The lease terminates. Immediately? That's what automatically means. Gregory said, we need the county to confirm whether removing Charles as managing authority would affect the club's occupancy. Teresa looked at the operating agreement. The club isn't our tenant. Exactly. Then changing its management doesn't give Christopher the lease. No, Gregory said, but displacing Charles and occupying under Christopher's control may breach it. Teresa tapped the petition. They think this transfers everything. They've treated it that way already, I said. New locks, new name, construction, money moved through another company. Have you surrendered possession? No. Have you accepted the lockout? No. Have you told the county someone else is responsible for the building? No. She looked directly at me. Then the lease is still active. What would make it end? If you surrender possession while another person is openly claiming to have replaced you without written county consent. Walking away? If it's clear you're no longer the responsible occupant, yes. Gregory said, we need that in writing. Teresa carried the documents upstairs. We waited nearly 2 hours. The conference room had no windows. Gregory drank 3 cups of machine coffee. I read the assignment clause until I could repeat it without looking. When Teresa returned, she had a letter on county stationery. The county attorney reviewed the file, she said. The clerk and recorder can certify the tenant record and state the effect of the recorded terms. This is as far as we can go without a commission hearing. She handed me the letter. It confirmed that Charles Freeman remained the sole responsible tenant. It confirmed that no transfer or replacement had been approved. It confirmed that the club's occupancy depended entirely on my personal tenancy. The final paragraph stated that if another person assumed and publicly represented controlling occupancy after displacing me, without written commission consent, the lease would terminate automatically when I relinquished possession. I read it twice. So, if Christopher claims the hall is his, I said, and I walk out, Teresa answered carefully. If the facts demonstrate that he has replaced you in practice, your departure ends the personal tenancy. He cannot step into it. And the club has no independent right to remain. Could the county reinstate me later? The commission could enter a new lease. It would require review, so I'd lose it too. For a time, yes. Gregory looked at me. This isn't a switch you flip for effect. Once you relinquish possession under those facts, the lease is over. I understand. You may not get it back. I understand that too. Teresa sat across from me. Do you? I folded the letter along its existing crease. In 1998, the county trusted me to preserve that building. If I let Christopher use my lease while pretending it belongs to him, then I'm the one violating that trust. You could ask the commission to intervene now. He'd say I'm a confused old man fighting harmless improvements. You have Dr. Steele's report? He'd change his story. Gregory said, "What are you waiting for? For him to say what he believes in front of people who can hear it." Neither of them spoke. Teresa made 3 certified copies. 1 stayed in the county file. Gregory kept 1. I took the 3rd. Before we left, she added a notation requiring her personal review of any filing involving the hall. Back at Gregory's office, we assembled the response to the incapacity petition. Dr. Steele's report went first. Teresa's tenant certification went into a separate file. We did not attach it. The court needed to know I was competent. Christopher didn't need to know what would happen if he won control of the club. Gregory locked the county letter in his cabinet. "We file the medical response Monday," he said. "And the lease letter? We hold it until he commits." Gregory gave me a long look. Yes. That evening, I went home and opened the sewing cabinet. Susan's yellow pad was where I'd left it. Beneath it was the cream napkin Robin had brought from the hall years earlier. I took a bottle of bourbon from the cupboard. It had been unopened since Christmas. I poured 1 glass. Then I sat at the kitchen table and read Christopher's business plan again. Founder transition expected within 12 months. He had expected me to fade quietly from my own life. I drank the bourbon slowly. When the glass was empty, I washed it and put it away. Then I wrote 1 line on the yellow pad. Let him claim it completely. Monday morning, Gregory filed our response. By noon, Christopher's attorney had received Dr. Steele's report. At 2:10, Robin called me. "Why did you go to a doctor without telling me?" "I went because your husband paid Norman Shelton to describe me as confused. He didn't pay him to do that. He paid $2,400 for a capacity assessment. Norman was supposed to talk about planning. Did you read his report?" "I read parts. Did you read the part where he said I couldn't remember scheduling the meeting? You said you didn't remember it. I didn't schedule it." Robin was quiet. Christopher said, "The office called you. They didn't." "Then maybe there was a mistake. The appointment was intercepted through my mail." "What are you talking about?" "Someone redirected my mail and picked up notices using a form with my name on it." "Are you accusing Christopher of forging your signature?" "I'm telling you what happened. He wouldn't do that. Ask him. I have asked him. He said he was trying to keep bills from being missed. Did you know he was doing it?" "No, but that doesn't mean it was some plot." "What did he tell you the court petition would do?" She exhaled sharply. "It was temporary. That isn't what I asked. He said it would pause major decisions until things settled." "What major decision was I making?" "You froze the bank account. I stopped him from moving more club money. It wasn't his money. It was for the expansion." "Did you know $112,000 went into your other company?" "That's still club money." "Not after it left the club account. We were keeping it separate." "For what?" "Renovations." "Where did the other $340,000 come from?" The silence lasted several seconds. "What other money?" she asked. I believed her. "Ask Christopher." "Dad, stop doing that." "Doing what?" dropping something horrible and telling me to ask my husband. He's the one who hid it. Was it alone? Ask him. I'm asking you. I'm not discussing private documents over the phone. She lowered her voice. Is Christopher in trouble? That depends on what he promised. What did he promise? I want him to tell you. You already know. I know what he signed. I don't know what he told you. Dad, did you personally borrow money from Eric Cardenas? No. Did you guarantee a loan? No. Then talk to your husband. She hung up. Gregory called before dinner. The emergency request has been withdrawn, he said. The whole petition? No. Only the request for immediate restrictions. So Christopher saw Dr. Steele's report. Yes. And changed direction. It appears so. Does the hearing still happen? The court converted it into a scheduling conference. No temporary order will be issued. I wrote that on the yellow pad. Can they keep using Norman's report? They can try. Dr. Steele's evaluation makes it weak. Will the judge see who paid Norman? When I'm finished, yes. Not yet. Charles, the court isn't your stage. I know. File everything on schedule. I intend to. The next afternoon, a large envelope arrived by courier. It contained an invitation printed on heavy cream paper. Freeman Hall Grand Reopening Gala. Under the new name was a black drawing of the building. The old Grange sign had been removed from the drawing. The event was scheduled for the second Saturday in August, almost 8 weeks after the locks changed. Dinner, music, presentation of the future development plan. At the bottom, Christopher and Robin were listed as hosts. My name appeared nowhere. Susan's name appeared nowhere. A handwritten note from Robin was clipped to the invitation. Please come to the family meeting Thursday. We need to settle this before the gala. I called Gregory. Did you get an invitation? I asked. To the gala? Yes. No, you're coming with me. I thought you might say that. Not Thursday. The gala. What about Thursday? That's family. You're going alone? I'll bring a copy of Dr. Steele's report. Don't hand them Teresa's letter. I won't. Thursday's family meeting was held in the banquet room. I arrived at 6. My old key still didn't work, so Robin opened the door. She looked tired. Thank you for coming. Who else is here? Just some people from the club. That isn't family. We thought it would help to have everyone hear the same thing. The banquet room had changed. The walls were gray. The cream curtains were gone. White fabric hung around the windows. Susan's maple tables had been moved against the back wall and replaced by round rental tables with silver legs. Her plaque was nowhere in sight. Christopher stood near a projector screen. About 20 club members sat facing him. Eric Cardenas was in the back row. That was not a family meeting. It was a presentation. Christopher walked over. I'm glad you came. You invited the club. People deserve clarity. About my family? About the hall. Robin touched my arm. Can we please get through this without fighting? I didn't bring a projector. She let go. Christopher called the room to order. He began with photographs of the building before Susan and I restored it. Broken windows, fallen plaster, weeds growing beside the steps. Then he showed polished drawings of a new bar, a bridal suite, and outdoor lighting. He used words like sustainable, competitive, and modern. He said the club had been held back by seasonal thinking. Several people glanced toward me. Then Christopher changed the slide. It showed a photograph of me sitting alone at Susan's funeral reception. The plate Robin had brought me was untouched. Christopher said, as everyone knows, Charles has suffered a terrible personal loss. His health and well-being have to come first. I stood. Robin whispered, Dad, please. I remained standing. Christopher continued. For that reason, Charles is stepping back from active management. I'm not, I said. The room went quiet. Christopher kept his expression calm. Charles, we agreed you wouldn't be pressured tonight. We agreed to nothing. Robin moved toward me. Dad, sit down. Did you approve that photograph? What? Did you approve him using a picture from your mother's funeral to tell people I'm unwell? She looked at the screen. I didn't know that was in there. Christopher clicked to the next slide. We can discuss the wording privately. No. You invited everyone. An older club member named Donna Hale raised her hand slightly. Charles, are you retiring or not? No. Christopher said, he's having difficulty accepting the transition. I took Dr. Steele's report from my jacket and held it up. This is an evaluation from a geriatric physician. It says I'm fully competent. Christopher looked at the report but didn't ask to see it. "This isn't about labels," he said. "You filed a court petition." A few people murmured. Robin's face went pale. "That's private," she said. "It stopped being private when he put my funeral picture on a screen." Eric stood near the back. "Christopher, maybe we should pause." "No," Christopher said. "This uncertainty is exactly why we need formal leadership." He looked around the room. "I've managed daily operations here for years. Robin and I are moving the hall forward. Charles will always be honored for what he started, but he can't keep vetoing every change." "Which change did I veto?" I asked. "The expansion." "You never brought it to me, because you refused to engage with anything new. I didn't know it existed." Christopher spread his hands toward the screen. "You know now." I looked at Eric. He avoided my eyes. That told me he still believed Christopher could deliver the building. I folded Dr. Steele's report and returned it to my pocket. "What are you calling the hall?" I asked. "Freeman Hall." "Who approved that?" "The management team." "The legal company?" "The operating organization." "Which one?" Christopher's calm expression began to slip. "This is what I mean. Endless technical objections. Names matter when money moves between companies." Robin stepped between us. "Dad, enough." I looked at her. "Did you know he personally guaranteed Eric's money?" Her mouth tightened. "Not here." That wasn't an answer, but it wasn't knowledge either. She looked frightened, not guilty. Christopher shut off the projector. "We're done for tonight." "No," I said. "You called the meeting, I'm ending it." Several members began gathering their coats. Donna stopped beside me. "I'm sorry about Susan," she said quietly. "Thank you. I thought you wanted to retire." "Who told you that?" She looked toward Christopher. I nodded. Outside, Robin followed me to my truck. "Why are you trying to humiliate him?" she asked. "He showed strangers a picture of me at your mother's funeral. He was explaining. He was replacing me. You're making everything harder." "Harder than what?" She wrapped her arms around herself. "Christopher says if the gala fails, we could lose everything." "What is everything? The business? Our house, maybe? I don't know." "Why would your house be involved?" "He won't explain it clearly. He borrowed $340,000. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "You knew." "I found out this week." "Is my name on it?" "Not on the guarantee I saw." She looked back at the hall. "Then why does he keep saying we?" "That's a question for him." "I'm so tired of hearing that. I'm tired of being asked to explain his lies." I opened my truck door. Robin touched the edge of it. "Are you coming to the gala?" "Yes." "Why?" "To hear what he says when he thinks the room belongs to him." For the next 3 weeks, Christopher sent updates to club members. He announced new catering partners, premium wedding packages, and expanded winter bookings. He referred to himself as executive director. The court petition remained pending, but he stopped mentioning my health in writing. Gregory filed Dr. Steele's full report and requested dismissal. Christopher's attorney asked for more time. Teresa kept the county record unchanged. A week before the gala, a crew removed the exterior Elkhorn Grange Hall sign. 3 days before the gala, a rebrand banner covered the front entrance. I drove past without stopping. On Saturday evening, Gregory picked me up at 6:30. He wore a dark suit. I wore the same blue shirt I'd worn the day I found the changed locks. Teresa was already inside. She sat near the side wall with several county employees. Eric occupied a front table. Robin stood near the stage in a dark green dress. Christopher had invited more than 100 people. The banquet room was filled. He had placed Susan's old maple tables in storage. White linens covered the rental tables. A permanent bar had been built along the west wall. Susan's plaque was still missing. At 7:15, the lights dimmed. Christopher walked onto the small stage and lifted a champagne glass. Robin stood behind him. He thanked the contractors, investors, club members, and the new leadership team. Then he looked across the room. "Tonight, Freeman Hall begins its future under my direction." Applause started. Christopher smiled and raised his glass higher. "This is our venue now. Robin and I control it, and no one is taking it backward again." I entered through the open banquet room doors with Gregory beside me. Christopher saw us. His smile weakened, but he kept the glass raised. I didn't interrupt him. I waited until he finished. The applause faded unevenly. Christopher lowered his glass. "This is a private event, Charles. It's being held in a county-owned building. You were invited as a guest." I walked toward the stage. Gregory stayed beside me. Teresa stood near the wall. I stopped between Christopher's table and Eric's. You said you control the hall, I said. I do. Not the event company, the hall itself. Christopher glanced at Eric. Yes. Robin and I control the venue. Robin stepped forward. Dad, please don't do this tonight. I didn't choose tonight. I looked at Christopher. He did. Gregory handed me Teresa's certified letter. Christopher recognized the county seal. What is that? He asked. The record you forgot to understand. I faced the room. Park County owns this building. In 1998, the county leased it to me personally. The rent is $1 a year because Susan and I agreed to preserve it. Christopher shook his head. The club holds the operating rights. The club operates here through my lease. Our attorneys reviewed the company. Your company was formed in 2015. I signed the lease 17 years earlier. Eric stood. Christopher, is that true? Christopher looked at him. The company has continuous occupancy. Through me, I said. I unfolded the letter. The county never transferred the tenancy. It never approved you as a replacement. The lease is personal and non-assignable. Christopher pointed at Robin. She's a managing member. Of the club, not the county lease. That's a technical distinction. Teresa spoke from the wall. It's the controlling distinction. Everyone turned toward her. She walked forward and identified herself as the Park County clerk and recorder. The recorded tenant is Charles Freeman, she said. There is no approved transfer. Christopher put down his glass. Then we'll file one. You already requested the forms, Teresa said. You were told approval was required before replacement. His face changed. He hadn't expected her to know that. I held up the letter. The lease says it terminates automatically if another person replaces me without county consent. You change the locks. You remove my access. You rename the building. Now you've publicly declared yourself in control. That doesn't terminate anything. It does when I relinquish possession. Robin looked at me. What does that mean? It means Christopher cannot take my place. If I leave after he claims control, the personal lease ends. The club loses its right to occupy. Christopher came down from the stage. You wouldn't do that. I looked at the gray wall where Susan's plaque had hung. No one moved. Christopher laughed once. You'll destroy your own hall. No, you already treated it as yours. I'm accepting your claim. You can't walk away from 28 years. I can walk away from you. I handed the letter to Teresa. She checked the signature and county seal. Then she said, if Charles leaves under these circumstances, I'm required to notify the county that its tenant has relinquished possession after an unauthorized replacement. Christopher turned toward Eric. This can be fixed. Eric didn't answer. I looked at Robin. She held the back of a chair with both hands. You filed papers saying I couldn't manage my affairs, I said. Now you can watch me make one clear decision. Then I turned and walked out. Gregory came with me. Teresa followed. Behind us, Christopher shouted my name. I didn't stop. The new front doors stood open for the gala. I crossed the lobby, passed beneath the rebrand banner, and stepped onto Calendar Street. That was the moment the lease ended. Teresa made the call from the sidewalk. Within 20 minutes, a county facilities supervisor arrived. The bar stopped serving because its event authorization depended on a lawful tenant. The caterer closed the kitchen. Staff covered the remaining food and rolled their carts outside. Guests left in small groups. Christopher stood in the lobby arguing with two county employees. Eric came outside carrying the financing folder Christopher had brought for investors. Charles, he said, did you know about my loan? Not until Cody flagged the reserve transfer? You're saying Christopher never controlled the lease? He never held it. Eric looked through the glass at Christopher. He represented that founder transition was expected. I saw the business plan. He told me the transition was approved. It wasn't. Eric's mouth tightened. He went back inside. We could hear him before we saw him. The venue deal is over, he told Christopher. I'm disavowing every representation tied to this building. Christopher lowered his voice. Eric, we need to talk privately. No, you made your claim publicly. What about the loan? The loan remains yours. I'm calling the guarantee. Robin stood beside the stage. What guarantee? She asked. Eric opened the folder and showed her the signature page. Your husband personally guaranteed $340,000. Robin read it. Her eyes moved from the amount to the date. You signed this last year? Christopher reached for the folder. It was necessary financing. You told me Eric was investing. It's functionally the same thing. No, it isn't. We can still recover if Charles cooperates. Robin looked toward the front doors. He knew. That's why you tried to remove him. I tried to protect the project. You hired Norman. Robin, not now. You told me Norman was independent. He was. Dad said you paid him. It was a consultation fee. Gregory stepped inside and handed Robin a copy of the invoice. She read the service description, family-directed transition and capacity consultation. Then she read the amount. You paid him to assess Dad before Dad even knew he was coming. Christopher lowered his voice again. We needed documentation. For what? The petition. You told me the petition was only a pause. It would have given us time. To take the hall? To save everything. Robin looked at the guarantee in Eric's hand. You mean, save you? Christopher reached for her arm. She stepped away. Don't. She walked through the lobby and came outside. I was standing beside Gregory's car. Robin stopped several feet from me. I didn't know, she said. You signed. I know. I told you to ask him. I kept believing whatever answer let me avoid choosing. I didn't tell her it was all right. It wasn't. She wiped her face with her palm. Can I leave with you? You can ride with Gregory, she nodded. That was how we left. Gregory drove. Robin sat in the back. Nobody spoke until we reached my house. Christopher didn't come with us. The county locked the building that night. Eric began collection proceedings on the personal guarantee. Christopher's expansion company had equipment and some remaining funds, but it didn't have a venue. The club reserve was returned after Robin authorized the reversal. The incapacity petition was withdrawn 3 days later. Gregory still filed Norman's invoice and Dr. Steele's report with the court record. Christopher moved out of the house he shared with Robin before the end of August. Whatever happened between them afterward remained their business. There was nothing left between him and me. The county commission held a public hearing 2 weeks after the gala. I didn't ask them to pretend the old lease had survived. It hadn't. I applied again as the responsible tenant. I submitted preservation records, insurance, and a plan to restore ordinary operations. Robin spoke at the hearing. My father built the trust that allowed this hall to exist, she said. I helped my husband misuse it. If the county approves a new lease, I'll work under my father's authority, not over it. The commission approved a new personal lease in my name. Reopening took another 3 weeks. Robin and I worked together, but carefully. She no longer had a key to my house. At the hall, she handled event schedules and vendors. Any transfer above the ordinary limit required both our signatures. Trust came back in small amounts. One morning, Robin carried Susan's plaque into the banquet room. Christopher had stored it behind boxes of bar fixtures. One corner was scratched. We cleaned it at a maple table Susan had chosen in 1999. Where do you want it? Robin asked. Where your mother put it. We rehung it between the front windows. Robin brought out the cream tablecloths. We covered the old maple tables and opened the doors under the Elkhorn Grange Hall sign. The first group inside was a local anniversary dinner. I stood near Susan's plaque while Robin checked the kitchen. The new lock turned with my key. That sound was enough. I learned that concern without consent is still control, and family doesn't get to erase you because your grief makes you quiet. If you stayed with me, please like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you would have done.